Well, hello and welcome everybody to the book launch for, oh, this is not working, for Has Anyone Seen Archie Ebbs by the lovely Simon Packham. We are so happy that you're here tonight. My name is Karen Bulcho. I'm one of the marketing officers at Firefly Press, and I have the honor of kind of chatting to Simon about his book today. Before we get started, just if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat, and then we'll kind of do a little chat Q&A with you all at the very end of this event. And we also have lovely Ken from Horsham Matters here to have a bit of a word later on. So do keep your questions ready and just keep them coming, and we are very happy to have you here. Hello, Simon, how are you doing?
I'm good, yeah, excited, yes, thank you. Very happy to be here.
So we'll start with a bit of a kind of Q&A thing. Could you give an introduction to Archie and his story for us?
Yeah.
For those of us who haven't, read the book yet.
So Archie Ebbs and his family, he's a happy young 11-year-old, and then one day his mum comes home from work, she's a nurse, and she says they've basically got to get out of their house because the landlord wants to sell it. And his mum tries to find another house, but she can't afford anything in the present climate, and so they have to go and live in a temporary hostel, B&B hostel for the statutorily homeless. And Archie, his sister, she's a teenager, she says, you mustn't tell anyone about this, you've got to keep it a secret. As Archie starts to distance himself from his friends, he gets more and more tired. There's a 2-hour journey from this place to school, gets more and more tired, and gradually he realizes that he's becoming invisible, and literally invisible, and the book is all about that, how he tries to get his cat Dinger, based on our lovely cat Pax, back, and how he becomes visible again. And that's so I suppose it's basically about hidden homelessness and the how that would affect an 11-year-old boy and his family. So yeah, that's basically the plot. But
we can't tell the end because we don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
Now you kind of touch on some really serious themes in this book, but it's also a really funny book. Are you as much of a jokester as Archie is? Because Archie loves his jokes.
Well, I could say, too many people know me here, I could say I'm an incredibly funny person, but yeah, I just I've always think a book without humor in it, I probably wouldn't read. So I guess that is the way that I would always tackle difficult subjects, and hopefully that works in this instance. So yeah.
Any favorite jokes or funny stories while writing?
Any favorite jokes? No, my favorite joke at the moment is what is my favorite? Oh yes, why do elephants drink?
Why do they drink?
To forget. I thought it was funny.
Well, there are some giggles in the gallery of people that are here, so I think it's a decent joke,
Thank you very much. I'm not looking at any of the faces because.
What was your experience writing Archie Ebbs like? Any new tips or new things that you've discovered during the process?
It's very handy to have a good agent who gives you lots of editorial advice. And one of, she's here tonight, so I would say that, but one of the great things that Anne suggested in this book particularly was, I knew it already, but how much he would miss his cat, and that's a strand, and trying to get his cat back, and how much a part of him that was. So yeah, no, I'd say, yeah, I learned that, have a good agent.
It's important. We've had a request from Claire to tell the fish and chips joke, so I think this is the right time.
Oh no, the fish and chips joke. I can't. I think she better tell the fish and chips joke. What is it? Basically, the gag is a man goes into, he says, what's he say? Oh yeah, she says, I want some fish and chips, please. And the lady goes, "This is a library, sir." And he goes, "I want some fish and chips, please." That's basically the gag.
I've actually seen this joke because you made this joke in one of the other videos and I still laugh. It's so great joke. Thanks, Claire. When it comes to Archie and his friends, I feel like one of the big things about Archie is that he feels he has to tell jokes for anybody to like him.
Yeah.
Is he based on anybody? Or was that experience based on anyone?
No, not exactly, but I guess that's something that I've always found a little bit, that was kind of a way to make people like you, but there's always not telling jokes, but being funny has always been kind of important to me and the basis of many of my strongest friendships. And I think there's one book that I've written before, another book, where the terrible thing that the boy says to his friend is he didn't think he was funny, and that was the worst possible thing that he could say to him. And I guess there is a little bit of a male thing, like, I don't know if it's a male thing, but being funny is...
It's a friend thing though, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can make each other laugh, you're kind of halfway there, I feel, with connecting with other people.
Yeah, that's how you make friends, maybe. And certainly with Archie, I don't know, I can't remember, I think in an original drop, he's quite an anxious boy, and that's the thing that made him, that was his thing that he found, that he could tell jokes. And yeah, maybe I found that a little bit. Yeah.
How many pets have you had in your lifetime? Because let's be honest, I mean, Dinger is our favorite, really. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, well, 2 cats. I mean, we've got a hamster's graveyard outside full of, well, obviously dead hamsters, but they were Claire's pets. So I've only had 2 cats, one called Zippy, a Burmese cat, and then Pax, who's in the chair there, who's a now 16-year-old cat. Yeah, and I think that's quite a lot for a lifetime, you know, but I do love cats. And I think Pax was the best 40 quid we ever spent. So there you go.
It was a long time then, isn't it, for 40 pounds?
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. You've prepared a reading for us.
Oh, yes.
Because, you know, we like our book launches within an hour if we can. And then you've actually sent in a video for me to like show everybody, which I'm really excited about. So do you want to do the reading first?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is the bit later in the book. Archie has been living in Manton House, which is the homeless hostel, and he's starting to distance himself from his friends, and they're stopping noticing him. And this is a moment when he suddenly realizes what's happening to him. There's one girl who's also living in the homeless hostel, a girl called Zosia, who's also in this little passage here. She's the only one he talks to now. So anyway, so it's a lesson where Amir, his friend, is talking about the films they make that they make together. They're called the Revenge of the Fruit movies, and it's based on something which you'll see later. And anyway, so here we are. So here we go. Amir's PowerPoint is quite funny until he stops talking about his early influences and moves on to the formation of top table productions. Here's a short clip from the Revenge of the Fruit episode 1, The Tomatoes Strike Back. I wrote the script, but like all our films, it was a collaborative effort. Collaboration is one of the school values. He smiles at Mr. Blott to make sure he realizes that he's worked it into his speech deliberately. Amir is going down a storm with the rest of the class, but the longer he goes on, the angrier I get. He talks forever about Josh's ability to blow up vegetables and what a good actor Caitlin is. So why has he hardly even mentioned me? Amir might have written all the scripts, but some of the best jokes, the dancing cabbages, the dream sequence in The Grapefruit Awakens, were mine. I'm not in any of the clips either. The best he can manage is the back of my head in the fight between Darth Vader and the grapes. filming is definitely the funnest part. I really like editing too, but the bit I enjoy most is where we all get together and watch it for the first time. Josh says that, how could he do that? He's practically edited me out of the whole story. I'm just as much a part of Top Table Productions as the rest of them. I even came up with a name. It's a long time since I've spoken in class, but I just can't stop myself. What about me? I say. Amir just goes on talking. And sometimes you can use music to make a joke funnier. I remember when we made Grapefruit Awakens, Caitlin found something on Spotify that was, I said, what about me? It's so rude. Amir just ignores me and carries on. And slow motion is good too. I used to edit in Windows Movie Maker, but now I prefer, by now I'm shouting at the top of my voice. What about me? What about me? What about me? Amir doesn't hesitate. It's like he hasn't even heard. And one day I want to go to Hollywood and meet some of my heroes. That would be, and the rest of the class are just the same. They're so engrossed in Top Table Productions and the Revenge of the Fruit movies that not one of them turns my way. Mr. Blott! Mr. Blott! I scream, he's not listening to me. You've got to make him answer my question. Except Mr. Blott isn't answering either. He's looking straight through me with a faraway smile on his face. But then I remember what he told Callum Critchlow about always putting your hand up. Mr. Blott! Mr. Blott, I shout, jumping to my feet and punching the air with my upraised arm. It's not fair. I was in those films too, and he hasn't even mentioned me. Look, see, I've got my hand up like you said, weren't you? And that's when I feel another hand on my shoulder. Calm down, Archie, says Zosia. There's no point shouting, they can't hear you anymore. I knew there was a reason you could see me. It's because we're both invisible now. Look. She runs across to Mr. Blott and pretends to aim a punch at his face. He doesn't even flinch. See what I mean? No, I say, climbing onto the table and waving my arms. Stop it, this isn't funny anymore. Why are you doing this to me? But every eye in the class, including Mr. Blott's, is fixed firmly on Amir, who keeps on talking as if nothing has happened. And probably the best special effect we've ever done is the disappearing raspberry in Phantom Lettuce. That was when Zosia offers me a hand. Get down, Archie, you might hurt yourself. I grab hold of it and climb down from the table. What's happening? I've told you, says Zosia. You've turned invisible, Archie. Now do you believe me? All right, I say, taking back my hand. Now, please, just leave me alone for a bit. That's it.
Let me just share our little video special. Thank you for that reading. That was lovely.
Do you want me to explain it?
You can if you want to.
Okay.
Do you want to do a little introduction?
Sort of, yeah. So anyway, one of the best things you can do as a writer is rip off your children. And the idea for these boys making the Revenge of the Fruit movies actually came from my son John and my nephews Sean and Aidan. Every week they used to go around and my mum cooked them their tea, and they made these films like Revenge of the Fruit movies basically. And Sean has very kindly done me a little minute compilation. That they're a little bit young in this, but anyway, you'll get the idea. So yeah.
Right, and hopefully you can do it. Today's news.
Take one of apple crumble. Hey, someone.
Yeah, interesting. They're 26 now.
Well, you know, I feel like now you can kind of look back on that. Also, can I just say that was like, I really enjoy the creativity, and I really enjoyed like color changing of the shirt. I don't know why, that was like my favorite part. All right. So, gosh, we're whizzing through. We're doing really well, Simon. We're doing great. So we also have Ken from Horsham Matters with us today. I'm just going to spotlight you, Ken, if that's all right, so that everybody can see you, and then I'll just go away. It'll be great. And so basically, Ken put Simon in touch with some local charities, and so we've asked him to have a little bit of a word today.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Perfect.
And thank you for joining us tonight.
No, pleasure. Thank you, and good evening, everybody. Yeah, as was mentioned, I'm chairman of Horsham Matters. We're a local charity in Horsham, and we work with a number of partner organisations dealing with a whole range of different issues relating to poverty in the local area. And despite the fact that Horsham is a very affluent area, you know, we have our issues in our town as well. And as an example, during the COVID period, we had almost 12,000 people in the course of a 12-month period during COVID accessing our food bank. And homelessness is something that we also deal with as well. And Simon's book picks up some really interesting themes that are not generally recognized or necessarily understood when you talk about homelessness. And if I just give you a couple of statistics, there was a study published at the end of last year, December, in fact, by Shelter. They estimated then that more than 270,000 people are homeless in England right now. And that figure includes, according to their results, almost 126,000 children. So the numbers are significant. And given where we are at the moment, you can expect that those numbers are probably going to increase. You think about in terms of increased costs of living, and particularly the huge pressure on utility costs, you can only see that number getting worse. And if I pick on Shelter again, you know, they did a more detailed analysis of rough sleeping and temporary accommodation, and found that nearly 250,000 people are living in some form of temporary accommodation, most of whom are families. The problem is that many people who become homeless don't show up in official figures. And that's the term, therefore, known as hidden homelessness, which is the very theme that Simon picks up in his book about Archie. And the hidden homelessness category or definition includes people who become homeless but find some form of temporary solution by staying with family members or friends, maybe living in squats or other insecure forms of accommodation. And the statistics about hidden homelessness are quite hard to come across because of its very nature. But Crisis indicates that about 62% of single homeless people are hidden and don't show up in official figures. And the figures affecting families of single parents with children, again, are extremely hard to quantify because of that very nature of the situation. What we do know, and certainly what we see ourselves and our partners Turning Tides, who focus specifically on homelessness throughout Sussex, is that the psychological and emotional impact on families, and particularly children, is immense. And that expresses itself in terms of developmental and learning delays, behavioral difficulties, significant increased levels of anxiety and depression. And Simon's narrative about how Archie and his family become homeless, and the the hugely stressful experience that they endured going through that process, and the characterization of Archie in trying to navigate his way through that situation, trying to maintain normality whilst also trying to hide that situation from his friends, certainly resonates strongly with the situations that we as a charity come across on a regular basis with the families that we come into contact with. So I think the book is excellent. I've had the great pleasure of reading it. I'm delighted that this story is being told in such an authentic and empathetic way. And I sincerely hope that it really helps children and families who might be experiencing a similar situation in their lives, because it's a very accurate and yet very humorous depiction of what really happens. And if you haven't read it, I would certainly encourage you to do so. And Simon, I congratulate you on what I think is a brilliant book. Well done, sir.
Thank you very much, Ken, and thank you very much for speaking tonight. That's great. Thank you.
We did have some comments. Rebecca, your editor, is here as well, and she said fantastic reading, and it really brought it to life. Thank you so much, Simon. I have to say though, I feel like your background in acting is really paying off tonight. You're doing fantastic.
Yes.
Actually, while we wait for some questions to come in, shall we do some quickfire questions?
Whoa.
I mean, you know, because the rest we kind of prepared. Tea or coffee?
Tea. Oh, coffee. Sorry.
Coffee. All right.
Yeah.
Cake, ice cream. I don't know why I'm going with food.
Cake.
Written by hand or on the computer?
Oh, computer. Can't even read my writing anymore.
I feel like you just lose the penmanship after a while, isn't it? The outdoors or safely at home, cozied up?
Oh, bit of both. Can't answer that one. Yeah.
Trains or buses?
Trains.
Trains? Okay.
Yeah.
I like being able to run around myself. I'm not a good sitter downer. And finally, reading or writing?
Oh, reading.
Reading?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll not tell Anne, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. We did get a comment. Coffee? You only drank tea.
I know, I've changed since.
All right. We have a question. Penny asks, first of all, I love the subtlety of this book. It's such a well-told and moving story. How early did you get the idea to tip into actual visibility?
I think that was one of the one thing that I read when I was reading about homeless people. The one thing that came up so often was the thing that they hated most was the way people would look straight through them and they felt invisible. So that was quite early. Yeah. That struck me as a powerful.
I feel like it's such a powerful metaphor as well. You know, it's such a powerful thing for Archie to really not just become invisible, but then become visible again at the end.
Yeah, the hardest thing was thinking, how does he become visible again at the end? That's what I thought about the most. But then empathy seemed like the right thing. Yeah.
And Joanne actually asks, was the invisibility more about how Archie felt or how the people around him reacted towards him?
I think it's both, but yeah, I think a bit of both. Yeah.
And then Claire asks, congratulations on a great book. What was your favourite part to write?
Oh, well, my favourite bit's probably the teenagers, his sister Izzy, but mainly there's a character called Clint who I really liked. He's a funny boy. Not based on anyone I know. Yeah.
We love Clint. He's we love him. He's part of the family, isn't he? Joanne asks, would you rather be able to turn invisible or have super speed?
Oh, probably the super speed these days. Yeah.
And then Andy, I love that we're getting some more questions. Violin or piano?
Oh, I'm better at playing the violin, but I prefer playing the piano.
And then Anne asks, what did you like best about writing for this age group? Because this is your first middle grade, isn't it? Because previously you've written for older, like an older age category.
Yeah, they're older. I think there's a tiny little bit more freedom, and it's from adults to children, there's your cynicism level gets less and less, I think, which is nice. It's freeing in that way. So yeah. And
was there anything you missed in comparison to writing for teenagers?
Not really. No, not really anymore. I mean, I kind of stopped writing for teenagers when my children stopped being teenagers, and I stopped understanding teenagers.
So you used to just check with them and be like, "Yo, you're right."
Exactly. Well, you could try, yeah, but you could kind of observe.
Andy, I'm not gonna ask who your favorite child is. That's just rude. No.
Yeah, well, we all know the answer to that one.
Francesca asked, well, first of all, she says she's really enjoying the book. Are there any plans for future stories with Archie? And how do you keep up with the kids now that you all are grown up? Not really any more plans for Archie. What was the second bit of the question? How do you keep up with the kids now that yours are grown up?
Well, luckily, Vicky, who's on there, is a childminder next door, and I sit in the garden and listen to the children talking. Or out the window. That sounds a bit creepy, not in a bad way, just in a good way.
Just in a, that sounds hilarious, let's put it in a book kind of vein.